Hello, who is it? Oh, it's you. Well, do come in. Welcome once again to the House of Hammer. This is an unexpected pleasure. Do forgive the slight aroma on the air. We can't decide if it's because the septic tank needs emptying or if it's because Smokey's been doing his laundry here. Anyway, come on inside and allow me to guide you to room 9. One of the more dastardly and downright surprising rooms in Hammer's house, containing an altogether Hitchcockian thriller that seems to have dropped almost entirely below everyone's radar. Yes, creaking door cliches out of the way. Here we are then, room number 9, containing yet another film with a longer title than it really needs. 1949's Celia, the sinister affair of poor Aunt Nora. That's the actual title. Starring Hi Hazel, Bruce Lester, Joan Hickson, and Elsie Wagstaff. I know what you're thinking, though. Hi who?
Hi ho!
Hi Hazel, that's who. And in case you've never said hi to Hi in your film watching past, then you might be wondering who this particular Hi is. In actual fact, Hi was something of a wow. A high hit, if you will, of British film during this period. Here to tell you all about today's leading lady is a man who knows the whole story of this unsung hero of film. A man who'll help us all to better understand why she matters so much. And so here's your friend and mine, Ben Taylorson, to help us all to get high. Hi, Ben.
Hyacinth Hazel O'Higgins was born in Streatham, South London, sometime between 1919 and 1922. Interestingly, several different sources cite different birth years. In fact, during the course of my research into this piece, I found information about Hi Hazel to be a little confusing or contradictory in several places. But what I can say for certain is that she had a very varied and somewhat eclectic career, one, however, that was tragically cut short. According to a newspaper article in the Times, she started acting by starring in A Winter's Tale, aged just 7 years old, and was in her early teens when she appeared as a member of the chorus in the West End production of Richard Rodgers and Lawrence Hart's On Your Toes in 1937. After studying ballet, Hazel worked as both a photographer's model and a clothes model before moving into musical comedy. She had parts in a number of films, including The Body Said No, The Lady Craved Excitement, the franchise affair The Yellow Balloon, and of course, Celia. Described by some at the time her star was ascending as Britain's answer to Betty Grable, it is perhaps fair to say she never reached the on-screen heights that she could have done. Writing in the Sunday Mirror in January 1958, showbiz journalist Dick Richards wrote in his regular column, The Bright Lights, that the plain truth is there are just not enough knowledgeable film folk boldly tackling the essential job of building stars in the same cynical, shrewd, successful way that Hollywood does. Petula Clark, Jane Hilton, Pam Arliss, Susan Shaw, Celia Lipton, Sally Ann Howes, Hi Hazel, Honor Blackman and Harriet Johns as screen talent are being wasted. They are just a few of the young, potentially useful artists whose screen hopes and ambitions are being bogged down by few parts, colourless roles, and an apathetic refusal on the part of film bosses to build them up on a long-term basis. No wonder Hollywood licks its lips and beckons optimistically. Away from the screen in 1948, Hi made a successful debut as Principal Boy in pantomime, a form of entertainment she would excel at for many years to come. According to another newspaper article published at the time, she had all the equipment needed: long legs, an engaging stage presence, a sense of humour, and great panache. In fact, she established a reputation as English pantomime's most distinguished post-war Principal Boy. So, with this established career and relative success on stage and screen, when Hi married, she in fact did so to a husband outside of show business. Edward Adam Primrose Jenkins was a divorced land agent for the Duke of Marlborough, and when Hi married him, she gained a stepson in the process, Nicholas. Although there appears to be little information as to when Hi and Edward wed or the exact duration of their marriage, the tragic circumstances regarding Edward's death in 1960 are known. A terrible accident would leave Hi as a widow. Edward had begun to lose the feeling in his feet owing to some sort of rare blood condition. One night, when cold, he fell asleep by an electric fire. The lack of sensation in his feet meant he was tragically unaware that they were too close to the fire, and they burned. When he awoke, he rang for his wife, who, upon seeing what had happened, called immediately for a doctor. Edward's feet were amputated, but the operation couldn't save him. Despite the tragedy, High Hazel continued her acting career, now increasingly on stage. She was in the opening production of Sir Bernard Miles' Lock Up Your Daughters in 1959, playing the part of Miss Squeez'em. She would later travel overseas to play the same part in an Australian production. A review from the time stated that as a lusty and resourceful wife, her reappearance is more welcome in that one could not imagine the part played better or even differently. She enacted the part more than 2,000 times over a 3-year period. She also had success as Dixie Collins, an aging has-been movie star in the musical Espresso Bongo. While starring in Fiddler on the Roof, there were reports that High was due to wed again, this time to Mr. John Leighton Davis, son of a Swansea industrialist. However, like her husband Edward, High was to suffer a tragic and premature death when, on the 10th of May 1970, she choked on a piece of fillet steak whilst dining with a friend. She was just 47 years old. A popular, talented and well-regarded actress, High Hazel packed a huge amount into a career that came to an end much sooner than it should have done. I, however, am thankful that we have a film such as Celia that gave her the chance to be a leading lady on the big screen and to demonstrate both her charisma and her charm. The nature of researching these segments for films that were made many years before my birth, and thus the stars of which have since passed, means that you encounter a fair amount of tragedy. The biggest tragedy here is perhaps that High Hazel never reached the lofty heights of Hollywood superstardom. But reading between the lines, I suspect she didn't court publicity or stardom outside of working hours. But for the thousands and thousands who adored her in pantomimes and musicals on the stage, as well as her big screen appearances, we should be thankful that they, and we, got to witness her star shine at all.
Masterfully done, Mr. Taylorson, and so we are introduced properly to the somewhat poignant tale of High Hazel, the unfortunately far too quickly extinguished star in Britain's cinematic heavens. Celia, the sinister affair of poor Aunt Nora from 1949, was perhaps High Hazel's most blazing leading turn, and it's our honour to present it for you today. Now, Celia, at its heart, is a modest thriller based upon a radio serial that seems to have followed the adventures of an aspiring actress, Celia, who regularly helped her detective boyfriend, Larry Peters, when he came up against a crime that needed an undercover agent. Celia would put her acting skills to good use and infiltrate those closest to the crime in order to find the evidence that would help to hang the guilty. Hammer seemed to be on something of a roll when it came to adapting radio for film. PC-49 had proved successful, and so had Dick Barton. Now it was time for a female lead, and Celia the radio serial seemed like the perfect choice. But did it pay off? The film itself begins with our heroine, played by High Hazel, as she's out shopping, and whilst doing so, she becomes enamoured with a very particular item of apparel that she longs to own.
Tell me, are you going to buy that creation?
That creation is 25 guineas.
Oh. Celia, why aren't you working? That producer I introduced you to told me you were just what he was looking for.
Oh, yes, I was just what he was looking for, all right.
Sure, that's what I told him. I said you could do anything on the stage.
I was to be Paulette, the Parisian model. The only trouble was he wanted to try me out there and then.
Nice guy. Celia, how would you like to come and work for me for a day or two?
Oh, no.
It's a very interesting case.
No, Larry.
I'm paying 50 guineas.
Never again.
All right, darling, have it your own way.
Yes, in exchange for the funds to buy the hat of her dreams, Celia takes a job for Larry once more. The task is to infiltrate the large country house occupied by Aunt Nora, played by Elsie Wagstaff. Some time ago, she met and married a much younger man, Lester Martin, but ever since their union, Aunt Nora seems to have dropped off the face of the earth. Posing as a servant, Celia takes up residence in the house, where she soon discovers that Nora's family's fears are true. Aunt Nora has been locked away and slowly poisoned, literally and mentally, by her insidious new husband.
Lester doesn't like me to see people. He says it's bad for me. He'll be cross if you stay here.
Now, that's all right.
Where is Lester?
It's up to Celia to not only somehow convince the old lady that her devoted younger husband is a villain, but also to spirit her away from beneath her suspicious husband's nose. There's your setup, and we will, I promise, dig into it in more detail in the coming show, but one thing that leapt out immediately at not just myself, but also to my fellow cohorts here at the House of Hammer was... a hat? Really? Could a hat possibly be the driving force behind making you risk your life and that of an elderly poisoning victim? Yes, the thing that kickstarts the marvelous adventures of Celia in the movie is her desire to purchase a hat, one that she refers to as a creation. But the hat is not purchasable, according to Celia, because it's 25 guineas.
I have an idea that an old woman is being killed, slowly.
And I've an idea if I get mixed up in this, a young woman will be killed. Quickly.
No gag, Celia, this is serious.
Well, I'm serious. You're a great, strong, hulking man. If somebody's being killed, do something about it. Go out and stop him.
I can't without your help.
Please, Larry, I've told you, I won't get mixed up in your racket. Oh. Oh, Larry, look. Isn't it a dream?
With 50 quid in your pocket, you could buy half a dozen hats like that.
Now, maybe back in the wilds of 1949, savvy audiences would have clucked their tongue at such a price, or maybe even raised an eyebrow at how cheap the thing was, depending on their social standing. But for viewers of today, how are we meant to react to such a price? Are we meant to believe that the hat is so expensive that it's just too much to consider? Or does Celia actually mean that the hat is so cheap it could hardly be a thing of quality? Now, for those listeners who remember how British currency used to work before decimalisation, you already have your answer, I'm sure. Kev, for instance, who was born into a world in which frankincense and myrrh were traditional birthday gifts, will be hopping up and down at our ignorance. But for whippersnappers such as myself, born after decimalisation came in, how on earth did ye olde British money used to work? Because I have never understood why pennies were called D. What exactly is a bob? What's better, a farthing or a threepence? And what is a half-crown? Okay, well, hold on to your creations, because this gets quite tricky. So basically, all old money boils down to three basic denominations. Pennies, known as pence, the shilling, which was worth 12 pennies, and the pound, which was worth 20 shillings. Punch it up on a calculator, and this means that a pound used to be worth 240 pennies. Pennies were written up with a D because the D stood for denarius, which was basically Latin for pennies. Shillings were written up with an S, not because they were called shillings, but because it stood for solidus, which was a Latin shortcut for shilling. And pounds were written up with that pound symbol we still use today, which is an arty take on the letter L for libra, which was the Latin equivalent of pound. But then where does the word quid come from to describe a pound? Well, that's from the Latin as well. The Latin phrase quid pro quo means something for something. So being the artful scholars of Latin that we used to be in this country, the slang term for the exchange of a pound for goods became known as to trade a quid. Very highbrow stuff. Now, here's where it gets slightly complicated. If something like a jar of coffee used to cost less than £1, then it was usually broken down into shillings and pence. So a jar might cost 2 shillings and 6 pennies, which was abbreviated to, say it with me, 2 and 6. So to make things even more baffling, the Treasury, of course, decided to mint a load of pre-made shilling and pence denominations in coins to make it a bit easier. You had a farthing, which was worth 1/4 of a penny. So when you hear someone saying, "Not a brass farthing," you're basically telling someone that what they're offering is so worthless that you wouldn't even give them a fake 1/4 of a pence for it.
Good morning, George. Not a brass farthing.
Next up was the halfpenny, or halfpenny, because goodness knows halfpenny is far too difficult to say. Then you had your penny. Next one up was a 3-penny coin, also known as threepence, or threepenny bit. You then had a sixpence, and as a shilling was worth 12 pennies, you could use the aforementioned coins in collaboration to achieve any required sum less than a shilling, right down to the quarter penny. A sixpence was sometimes called a bender, stop it Smokey, because you could bend it in half due to its silver content. So you used to get courting couples bending sixpences into shapes as love tokens. A sixpence was also called a tanner, derived from the gypsy word torno, which means small one.
A humble silver sixpence. And what is the common slang word for a sixpence?
A tanner.
Precisely.
Okay, so now we have all those coins. The next one up was a shilling, which was worth 12 pence. A shilling was also known as a bob, and no one knows quite why this was, but likely it was derived from the word bawbee, which was a 16th century term for a coin. Bob was popularized like crazy during Bob a Job Week, when scouts would do jobs for you in return for a shilling. Again, stop it, Smokey. Then you had your 2 shilling coin worth, can you believe it, 2 shillings, or 24 pennies. And lastly, you had your half crown. A half crown, ladies and gentlemen, was worth 2 shillings and 6pence. So basically, 2.5 shillings. Every now and then the treasury would mint a few crown coins, which were worth 5 shillings even, but this was quite rare. Still with me? So the order of importance goes farthing, halfpenny, penny, threepenny, 6pence, shilling, 2 shilling, and half crown. Okay, so now we're into super money realms. A £1 coin worth 240 pennies, or 20 shillings, was a sovereign. The best part is that it was mainly made of actual gold. Hence all the talk in old movies about gold sovereigns.
I'll pay for it.
What with?
50 gold sovereigns.
What are they?
Up there in my case.
So valuable and prized was the gold sovereign coin that if you find one, you can still use them to this day. They are still legal tender. As the face value is still £1, you can only spend it in shops as £1. But you'd be mad to do that, as the gold value in the coin is, at the time of recording, worth £305 on the gold market. And finally, we come to our guinea. A guinea was worth £1 and 1 shilling. Why, you may ask? Well, surprisingly, it all comes down to class. You see, pounds were all very well for tradesmen, but if one wanted to settle a bill with someone of distinction, one always paid in guineas. It was like £1 with a built-in service charge applied. Shopkeepers looking to add a touch of class to their shop fronts would sometimes advertise their wares with price tags in guineas, so as to let the riffraff know that places like theirs were out of reach to paupers. So when Celia and her beau are discussing the 25 guinea hat at the beginning of Celia, they're instantly communicating that the hat shop is one of distinction and quality, and that the creation is bloody expensive. But how expensive are we talking? Well, let's adjust things for inflation, shall we? How much is Celia planning to pay for her creation? And just how much is the sinister affair of poor Aunt Nora worth to her detective love interest? Well, £1 in 1949, adjusted for inflation today, would buy you the equivalent of £36 worth of goods. This means that roughly translated to guineas, which would have been worth £25 and 25 shillings, in order to buy Celia's hat today, we'd be looking at £939 and 58 pence. So now you know, listeners, exactly what's at stake here. If you ever need an aspiring actress to infiltrate a house of murder and rescue your poisoned aunt, it'll cost you roughly the same as an iPad. And talking of cheap, let's head on over now to Smokey, Kev, Ben and myself as we walk you through one of Hammer's most exciting early adventures.
Okay, gentlemen, from 1949, we come to Celia, or with a rather clunky subtitle of The Sinister Affair of Poor Aunt Nora. We'll come back to that in just a little while. So, this is Hammer continuing on with their more spunky female heroine kind of adventures that we've kind of gotten used to over the last couple of episodes. Starting off, my friends, what did we think of Celia? We'll just stick with that as the title from now on. Well, it's another
Good idea.
It's another crime solver, isn't it? So there are two ways of looking at late 1940s England. Either that it's riddled with crime, or there can possibly be no crime whatsoever because everyone's out there solving crime.
Yeah, that's true. But the film sets itself up really well, in my opinion, from the very beginning of introducing our hero and heroine, shall we say?
Hello, Celia.
Larry Peters, it was a very nice day.
Yes, darling, that's what I thought. You know, Celia, I've been looking for you all over London. I telephoned your flat.
Oh, my phone's been out of order the last few days.
So I gathered. The supervisor told
I
me
might have known it. Being a private inquiry agent, you have to make inquiries. My telephone is being disconnected.
Too bad. Tell me, are you going to buy that creation?
That creation is 25 guineas.
Oh. Celia, why aren't you working? That producer I introduced you to told me you were just what he was looking for.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, I was just what he was looking for, all right.
Sure, that's what I told him. I said you could do anything on the stage.
I was to be Paulette, the Parisian model. The only trouble was he wanted to try me out there and then.
Nice guy. Celia, how would you like to come and work for me for a day or two?
Oh, no.
It's a very interesting case.
No, Larry.
I'm paying 50 guineas.
Never again.
All right, darling, have it your own way.
Oh, Larry, what's it all about, this case?
That's more like it.
Now, don't get the idea
Let's go
that
somewhere where we can talk. That's that, eh?
No, dear. Somewhere where we can talk.
Right, thank you.
I totally agree. May I just quickly say that didn't it feel to you guys that Hammer are really hitting their stride by this film?
Yeah.
Because it just seems like all of a sudden the engine has been switched on and they're just like it's just hit at the moment. We've had River Patrol, we've had the PC-49, and now we're into Celia. So it's just it's almost like they know that they're starting to find their formula, and I think Celia is a massive step up in terms of not just production quality, but the finished product of this film. This is a really bloody good British thriller.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's like a B movie with A movie sensibilities. There's so much care taken in this thing. I absolutely love it. That's my thoughts straight away.
No, definitely agree. You've not just got some really well fleshed out characters right throughout the cast. Bizarrely, even down to Mrs. Leatherbarrow that we never actually see. But Mrs. Leatherbarrow, with a name like that, what else could you be but home
Best
help?
name ever.
Yeah. But
I think every time you say Leatherbarrow, we should take a drink.
All right, fair dues.
Oh my God, we're in for some fun tonight then. Just the whole dialogue and the way that everybody's able to come out with some really cracking lines, and then you look at it and go, well, what? Hang on, we've got a dialogue editor on this one. It's Roy Plomley, of all people. Desert Island Discs.
Yeah. This film definitely has a very rich heritage. I would say that, it's like an hour long. There's so much plot in this thing. And I would say that this thing actually strays into Hitchcock area. It's Hitchcock territory for a good deal of it. This is a very well-crafted thriller. From the title, you kind of assume it's going to be some kind of melodrama or some kind of romantic. It's just Celia from 1949. That's how it's generally known. And I did think to myself when I put this on, I had preconceptions about it. And I'm so glad to say that every single one of those preconceptions was confounded. This is a very, very smart, very well acted, very surprising, and really enjoyable film. And I was utterly spellbound by it.
We mentioned when we were talking about the PC-49 about the whole sort of the subtitle of the sort of the guardian angel angle, which didn't really mean anything. What do we think of the subtitle of the sinister affair of poor Aunt Nora?
It definitely describes what happens.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I mean, it gives you a full understanding of it, because that is there aren't any subplots in this film. That's what it's about.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't carry this on throughout film history, because can you imagine The Sixth Sense? The Sixth Sense. I see dead people. What?
You don't half see dead people.
Titanic, the sinister occasion of the massive iceberg. That would have been, that wouldn't have worked, would it?
Batman, he fell in a well full of bats and now he kills people because they're bad.
He doesn't kill people, he brings them to justice. How dare you?
He kills people in the latest one.
Well, we don't count that one. Anyway, so...
Fight.
No, not again. We're not getting people worried at being better.
The sinister affair of the daughter being snatched and Liam Neeson.
Right, we're not going down this road because we will just keep going.
Okay, yeah, we could do this all day.
We could. Let's not do that. But as I said in the intro there, it's like I really like the setup of this. It didn't waste any time. You meet our main protagonist, you meet Celia, you meet Larry, you find out she's a struggling actress, you find out he's a struggling PI who doesn't have the confidence of the police. She is obsessed by hats, he has a case, and off we go. And that's in the first few minutes.
The efficiency of the setup is due to the fact that this was based on a radio serial, and I have searched and searched and searched, and I cannot find any details really about what the serial was about. I'm dying to know. Having seen this film, I would love to know what the radio series was about. Was it a different adventure every time? Was she always a struggling actress? Was she just like a detective girl who sort of hopped in and out of these cases? But I think there seems to be this level of familiarity at the beginning where it's kind of assumed that the audience know who she is. So they're kind of in on it straight away. You know, the banter that goes on between her and her boyfriend is just, it's almost like inclusive. It's like, hey, come on in, guys. We're going to get straight into this. I really like that about this film. It takes 5 minutes to set it up, and then it takes the other 60 to give you a really taut, suspenseful, very well-written story.
What I liked about this was I felt like I knew their relationship immediately. I felt like I knew that there was an episodic nature to this film. Like there had been 50 Adventures previously where she, as an actress, she'd been called on to play someone. She wasn't to infiltrate a crime or whatever. But I found the relationship between Celia and the PR is it
Larry?
Larry, yeah, very interesting because in the summary, the synopsis of the film, they are described as boyfriend and girlfriend. I didn't get that at all. I got a kind of a moonlighting type relationship. You know,
exactly.
That's
exactly it.
They're obviously attracted to each other, but the minute they admit that, the series is over.
Yeah. And it's like it's going to be kept up forever.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought that was very clever. I thought it worked. And I thought the chemistry between the two of them was perfect.
Yeah, but I actually like the way you put that as well, because it was sort of like you knew he was interested in her, but he knew he wasn't tied down to her, so his eye did wander, especially to his secretary.
Absolutely.
And some of his cases.
Absolutely, yeah. And then also you knew she was interested in him, but that she also found hats rather more attractive than she finds him. So it was just
doesn't.
I know. But it was just a good mix, and I found that really charming as well. But also we've got to say, lads, the House of Hammer bingo. We end up in a bar straight away.
Yay!
Yeah. Ordering doubles.
Back to the pub, lads, for a game of billiards
Full
and
house.
double gins.
Yes. And
can someone explain to me how does that game of billiards with the mushrooms in the table work? It looks. Is it just to make it harder?
That is billiards. No,
it's
that
very
is
hard.
That is how you play billiards.
I've played non-mushroom related billiards. Is all I'm saying.
Well, then you haven't. Well, then you haven't lived, young man.
I haven't. It's like someone thought this is easy. Just put a few mushrooms on this. Let's toughen this up.
I think that's been the solution for
everything.
Game designs. Get some mushrooms in on this action.
Yeah,
we'll come out with something fun in the end. Yeah. What did you guys think of High Hazel? And may I say, the name of the lead actress is High Hazel, which sounds like the name of a prison drug dealer. That, or some kind of very genteel, as we said before, Nazi salute. High Hazel.
For me, genuinely, she lit up the screen. I watched this film, and this is going to make me sound like I'm going overboard, but there are very few actors that you watch and you think they've got it. I can't say what that is, but you watch it and you think they've got it.
It's the X Factor, isn't it?
Charisma, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not ashamed to admit I fell a bit in love with her watching this. I just thought she's absolutely
magnetic.
outstanding.
I'm
Yes,
so
she's
glad. I'm
brilliant.
so glad you said that, Ben. I came away from this film in love with her and the character. She is just utterly charming,
And it's not because she's
beguiling.
beautiful, nothing like that. It's just that everything she does is so interesting and fascinating.
Yeah.
It's like when she's pretending to be a charwoman, you're just drawn to her, the way she's doing it. So when she's going up a staircase, it's just everything she does is absolutely intoxicating.
Yeah.
There are some people that have it and some people don't.
It's almost like it's effortless as well. You know, it's like some sort of easy thing for her. She's got this
Well said.
ridiculous charm that seems to just drip off her. And you just, whenever you're watching her, you realise you're just watching her. There could be 18 people in the scene, but your eyes are focused on her and you're listening to what she's saying. You're not actually focused on what's going on around her at all.
It's like there's a spot. It's like there's a spotlight on her, isn't it? It's just. It's
exactly it.
She's incandescent, and every scene she's in, because I mean, she is in 99% of the film. I mean, there's only a couple of scenes which she isn't in.
Yeah, the exposition you bit.
And exactly, yeah, and that's fine. That's cool because you need to have that other side of the story, and it works. But it's a relief when she comes back on screen. It's like you're back home. You are back home with Celia, and it's and it was just a relaxing, calm way of watching a film with this delightful person.
She's really, really wonderful in this. I'm so shocked that I've never heard of her before. You know, as you know, I spent a lot of time in this era, and her name's not one that's ever come up before. And I watched this film, and I was like, why the hell wasn't she as legendary as your Margaret Lockwoods or your Eugene Gillers or anything from this period in British cinema? She deserved a massively successful career. She should have been way more remembered than she is today.
Absolutely.
I have an idea that an old woman is being killed, slowly.
And I've an idea if I get mixed up in this, a young woman will be killed. Quickly.
No gag, Celia, this is serious.
Well, I'm serious. You're a great, strong, hulking man. Somebody's being killed. Do something about it. Go out and stop him.
I can't without your help.
Please, Larry, I've told you, I won't get mixed up in your racket.
Listen, Celia, let me tell you what happened.
All right. It won't make any difference.
So shall we move on now? So we get the basic, the reason why Larry is wanting to employ Celia for her services as an actress. He wants her to impersonate a char lady at the house of Lester, who is with Aunt Nora, and he suspects that she is being poisoned in an attempt to kill her and take away a large amount of inheritance money from the will, basically. That's basic.
Yeah.
What do we think of this, then? The employment of Celia to do the job. Obviously, she's reticent at first to move her into it, and to move her into this potentially very dangerous situation as well. Kev, what did you think of this?
Well, the fact that they've actually, like we said about the step up in the production value and stuff, with this particular sequence, you've got a couple of minutes where you could have just talked this through with Larry and Celia in the bar, but instead they actually created this whole sequence where you get to see the Haldane's flashback sequence where Larry's explaining what's going on, and the Haldanes themselves are played by John Sharp and Joan Hickson. And I mean, we've already seen John Sharp in PC-49 by now, and he becomes quite a stalwart, even appearing in Wicker Man later on, a lot later on. But Joan Hickson, again, in this, perfect as a northerner, where you've got this pair of pushy northerners just trying to get into the house. It's just great. And it could have all been talked through straight away. You know, you didn't have to have that at all. But, yeah, it's a perfect setup.
Yes? Oh, good morning. We've come to call on Mrs. Lester Martin.
That's right.
All right, can I help you? I'm Mr. Martin.
Oh, I see. Well, Haldane's the name, and this is my wife. You'll have heard about her from Aunt Nora.
Yes, I have.
Me and my husband being up in London and seeing that Aunt Nora hasn't answered any of our letters, we thought we'd look her up.
Aye, and make your acquaintance, now that you're married into the family.
Really? Well, I'm in a most awkward position.
And so are we, standing on your doorstep. Aren't you going to ask us inside?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I can't, Mrs. Haldane. I've got to think of my wife.
And so have I. I want to see her.
But it's impossible. You see...
Well?
Come on, out with it, man.
Well, if you insist on the truth, she doesn't want to see you.
Aunt Nora doesn't want to see us. Don't talk so daft.
I'm very sorry, Mrs. Haldane, but that's the position. She's made it quite clear to me
that she doesn't want to have anything more to do with you. So I'm afraid all I can do is to wish you both good day.
I agree. It's a credit to it. Also, I did love the juxtaposition of having, all up until now. Granted, it's not very long into the film. It's only about 10 minutes, but we've had these quite posh-speaking Southerners, and then suddenly we do get these two very brash Northerners coming in and kind of upsetting the equilibrium. I like that too. I thought that sounded really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting scene. It's nice to see Miss Marple, isn't it? Who is in her mid-20s but appears to be 50. But no, it does set the film up quite nicely because they push back against the villain, and the villain is almost rattled by the fact that there are these people who are almost sort of undoing his evil scheme. And I think it needs to be remembered that it's them that, as you say, set the wheels in motion. So they're the ones that contact the PI and end up getting Celia involved, and they're ultimately sort of at the end there to see out the way the plot finalises. But yeah, it's a little cameo scene, and as Kev said, it could have been just talked through in the bar or whatever. But it adds quite a lot to the film. It gives you a lot more of a kind of an introduction to how cowardly and snivelling the villain is, and he's got this fake doctor who's there to keep Aunt Nora in a stupor, and you kind of see them for exactly what they are, and it puts you right on side. I mean, you don't really need to be put on side with the heroes, but it really sort of underlines how awful the villains are, and they're the worst kind of awful as well, because they're not even brave. They're real sort of they're real parasites to the poor old woman.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, poisoning is classed as the most sort of cowardly way of killing someone anyway, isn't it? Because it's unbeknownst to them that they're being hurt.
Yeah.
I really like the simplicity of the setup because you have Celia being recruited. The mystery is explained to her very, very quickly. It's we think our aunt's in trouble, and here's why. And you have this scene where Joan Hickson and her husband visit the house. There's obviously something up. We want to see our aunt, please, and he won't let them. And there's this doctor who's obviously a fake. The moment they walk into the room, he's downing the booze. So it's obvious that he's not there to serve. He's there to have a bit of a shindig. I'm on. Oh, yes, your aunt's very poorly. You instantly know who the villains are. There's no mystery about it. And the first time I watched this, I was like, well, if this is a mystery film, then why are they giving it away so quickly that they're actually trying to kill the aunt? But the genius stroke of that is that this film is not a mystery film. The mystery is very much solved within the first 5 minutes. You know who the villains are, you know who the good guys are, and you know that what they've got to do to solve it. They've got to get the aunt out of the house. Therefore, the whole film becomes, how do they get the aunt out of the house? And that's what this film is really good at. It's like you have Celia going in there. She has to find a way to get up the stairs, first of all. So she has to, wait till the master's out. Then she has to find a way to get the aunt out of the house before the master comes back. And that's where the crux of this film lies. It's not in a mystery to be solved. It's how on earth are they going to rescue the damsel in distress? And I think that is it's a very clever stroke, because when you watch the thing, and bearing in mind the films that have come before it, you think there's a mystery to be solved, and there isn't. What matters here is the mechanics of saving the damsel in the tower. And I really like that about this film. It was very refreshing, considering what we've seen so far.
Yeah, it's also almost like a logic problem, isn't it? Because not only do you have the locked door that's going to an adjoining room that is away from Aunt Nora's room, but we don't have the key for that. So that's obviously comes into play later on. But then it's kind of, right, I've got to get up there without anybody noticing. I've got to be able to get Aunt Nora out. And it's just great.
It's like a heist movie. It's like when you watch a heist movie, you don't watch it because you want to work out whether there's money up there. You know there's money up there. What you want to do is you want to see how the hell they're going to get up there, how the hell they're going to get out. That's what you want to see, and that's literally what this film is. It's how is she going to get up to see the aunt, and how is she going to get the bloody aunt out of the house, and if she gets caught, how the hell they're going to solve that problem. So I really like this. I was so surprised by this.
It's like a heist movie combined with Columbo.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
It really is. It's very clever.
Well, in that vein, just one more thing then, Kev. That's actually a really good jumping off point. Let's go to what I have classed as the major set piece of the film. I don't know if you guys disagree, But this is
the whole second act, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a scene that could have happened. Sorry, the duration of it could have been a hell of a lot shorter than it actually is. But they keep dragging it out and dragging it out and dragging it out, and the tension keeps building and building and building. Who wants to flesh the scene out? Let's do that, shall we?
Are you sure you can trust your Lester?
Of course I can. He loves me. He told me so only yesterday. Why, Lester would do anything for me.
Except let you see another doctor, eh?
He explained.
Husbands always do. Now look, Ducks, if you really want to see another doctor, it's as easy as kiss me hand.
But how?
Put your clothes on and come along with me. I'll get you fixed up straight away.
Lester would never let me.
He won't know. He's out doing the shopping.
I'd like to, but no, I'd have to tell Lester afterwards. He might be angry with me. No, I couldn't do it.
Now look here, Mrs. Martin. You've got to pull yourself together. This is serious.
Why are you talking that way? A moment ago, you were talking quite differently. I don't believe you're a daily woman at all.
I'm not. I've been sent here to see you.
Sent who by?
Frank and Emily Haldane.
Frank and Emily? But they've finished with me. They've never forgiven me for marrying Lester.
On the contrary, they've been told it's you that's finished with them.
Who by?
Your husband.
But he can't have. He's never even seen them.
Oh, yes, he has. They called here only last week and he wouldn't let them see you.
You're lying to me.
You can soon test the truth of that.
How?
By putting your clothes on and coming with me now. I'll take you straight to them. I'll get your things.
I won't have you saying these things about Lester.
I'm very sorry, Mrs. Martin, but I can assure you it's all true.
Oh, well, I'd love to take that because
Please,
it's the most delicious section of the film for me. It's like,
Go.
She managed. Well, the baddie, Aunt Nora's husband, goes out. So Celia must not only get up to the top floor, but she must also meet the aunt for the first time and convince her that she's on the side of the angels, and somehow convince her that her husband, who she adores, is trying to kill her. Not just that, but she must also try and convince her to get out of the house before the husband comes home. But in true Hitchcock style, the husband arrives home as she's just managing to convince the lady. So then Celia is forced to hide in the wardrobe and hope that the aunt believes her enough not to give her away. I mean, I don't think we really need to give away much more than that. What happens is it's a really good, very tense, beautifully constructed sequence in the film, and you really feel the geography of the house. It's like when he arrives home and walks through the door, you're like, oh Christ, you better hurry up, because I know that there are 2 flights between them, and I couldn't work out how I knew that, but I don't know how the writers have done it. It's a very, very cleverly constructed scene. It's like it's like I know they're there, and I know he's here, and I can feel the time passing as he's sort of like walking up the stairs and going round a banister, and she's still trying to put the coat on the aunt and saying, come on. I was actually gnawing my knuckles. It's bloody brilliant.
Yeah. The thing is as well, it's compounded. The pressure is compounded by the fact that he actually fakes her out at the beginning. You know, he goes out once and then comes back very quickly. You know, and says, I've come back because I forgot my coat, and it looks like rain when it's a perfectly sunny day. So, yeah.
But she's wise to that, though, is our Celia.
Oh, yes, she is.
She is. But also, well, he's walking around the bottom floor with the doctor shouting for her, isn't he?
Yeah.
And you can sort of hear the echoes of his voice as Celia's trying to get the coat on the arm. And even as she knows that he's arrived home, and you're thinking, God, how are you going to get out of this? This is actually stressing me out like crazy. Like, what will you do? Will you hide behind the door and slip around as he comes through? Will you go into another room? Honestly, it really stressed me out.
All I'll say is it's a good job she didn't choose to hide on the balcony.
Well, yes.
The film would have been considerably shorter.
Jesus,
no spoilers, Ben.
It's true. Yeah, but I mean, there was a couple of bits I really liked about this. As you say, the tension just keeps ramping up. But also was that I know it was a little bit silly, but there's 2 occasions where Celia is almost found out. You know, she's in the wardrobe. Larry comes in. Sorry, not Larry. Lester comes in and pulls something off a hanger. and her head is there, and she has to duck down very quickly, wide-eyed and surprised. And okay, yes, it was silly, but there was something really adorable about the way it was done. So I was just sort of like, okay, I'll forgive that. And then also she kind of knocks the door open, and Lester sees it, but doesn't look in the wardrobe. He just closes the door. He thinks it's just an aberration, and it's just sort of like, okay, I'll forgive it that as well. You do have to forgive it those bits because they were just utterly charming.
Don't forget, Lester had already been in the wardrobe anyway, looking for the scarf. So he kind of thought that maybe he'd not closed the door properly. I mean, we've all done it.
Well, yeah,
it's the mark of a very well-written script, I think. This is, I mean, it's obviously a second feature, this film. It's 64 minutes long. No one was going for main feature with this thing. But what I admire about it is that the makers of it have obviously said they aren't going to skimp on the script. You know, they've said, oh, this is a chance for real invention here. She's hidden in the wardrobe and he's opened the door. What can we do? You can see her feet below the hanging coats. Will he spot them? You know, it's so well written. Like I say, it's a B movie with real A movie sensibilities. It's like they haven't said it doesn't matter. This is going on before the first thing. Let's actually give a about the script and let's properly try and ramp up the tension whenever we can, and they really do achieve it. Very, I absolutely applaud them. Brilliant.
Yeah, but that's why I called this scene the set piece of the film, because I could not take my eyes off this. I needed to know that Celia was okay. I needed to know whether Aunt Nora had believed her or not, or what his more dastardly plans were. I could not look away. Even I've watched this twice in the last few days, and I can't not watch this scene. I just have to.
Yeah, if you put yourself in Aunt Nora's shoes for 1 second, and you know, basically you get a complete stranger coming up to you and saying that the man that you love over the last however long it is, whether it's a year or 8 months, you know, she was completely besotted with the guy. For some complete stranger to just turn up and say it's all a sham, it's all a lie, how believable are they going to be? So, no, I'm completely with Aunt Nora on this. You know, it is going to be a tough call believing a complete stranger, especially when she hides in your wardrobe.
I would buy a timeshare from High Hazel. I would set fire to my own feet if she asked.
Good to know.
Wouldn't we all?
Would you hide in a wardrobe for High Hazel?
I would live in a wardrobe for High Hazel.
Good man. So obviously Celia has alerted Aunt Nora to the fact that she's in trouble, but she has to now run away and tell Larry that about the circumstances that are happening in the house. But I think this leads up to a fantastic couple of scenes where the police get involved under the assistance of Larry to know whether Celia is correct or whether if she isn't.
Now perhaps you'll be good enough to explain what all this is about before I get the police. That's all right, Martin. We brought the police along with us.
All right, you can put that gun down. My name's Parker, Scotland Yard. That's my card.
Oh. Good evening, Inspector. You're just in time. My wife informs me that this young woman here, apart from entering my house by a trick this morning, has been making the most slanderous allegations regarding myself and Dr. Creswell. Allegations which, I may say, I intend to make her repeat in court.
Well, Larry, something seems to have gone wrong. Remember?
Now, look here. The only person who can clear this up is Mrs. Martin. I believe her life to be in danger. And so it is, thanks to your damned interference. Inspector, here's my wife, a very sick woman, ordered to stay in bed by Dr. Creswell.
That's perfectly correct.
Lester, dear,
Nora, darling, you look exhausted. Come and sit down. Excuse me, Inspector.
Look here, Peters. This is a very different story from the one you told me.
Don't worry, Inspector.
But I am worrying. Acting on statements made by you which appear to have been completely without foundation.
Oh, but they're not.
Oh, keep quiet, you. It seems to me that you not only brought me here under false pretenses, but you've also placed me in a most invidious position. It's a very serious affair all round, Peters. Well, what have you got to say?
Well, you see,
Come on, man, say something.
No, look, I'll say it for him.
I told you to...
Shut up. I know, but I won't. Now you keep quiet and listen to me.
So yeah, the police get involved, but as has been a running theme in Hammer thus far, that's not necessarily a good thing. So Larry convinces Police Inspector Grable, or whoever he is, to come along to the heist, to the setting up of Nora. And at first he's very reluctant. He doesn't want any of that. But Larry, he's got a very smooth tongue with the ladies and apparently with senior police officials. So he manages to talk him round. And yeah, that's going to be the thing. So they all turn up. So you've got Larry, you've got the inspector, and you've got Celia. And the ruse is this: they're going to. They've already told Nora that she's to leave the house because she's being drugged to death. And she's to meet her relatives in a greenhouse or something. And in what's going to happen in her place is that Celia's going to she's going to ascend a ladder and hide in Nora's bed. And then the villains are going to come in and go, "Oh my God, you're not Nora. Let's kill you," or similar. And the police are going to go, "Nope, that's not going to happen." And this is massive spoilers, by the way. But anyway, this is where we are. So does this scene work? Is I'll not give any more than that. To reiterate, once again, the police are hopeless and they seem to instantly take the side of the villain. And Celia needs to talk round a room of idiotic men and say, "Look at the facts laid in front of you. This is how things actually are." And in microcosm, this is the film. Celia is one step ahead of everybody, and she uses sort of pragmatism and her
logic,
her sort of inner sort of brilliance to basically say, "Gentlemen, look at what's actually happening. This is how things should be." And
being constantly told to shut up.
Yeah, but she doesn't. Yes. What I like about it though,
I know the feeling.
She's just like, "I'm not going to shut up," which is a lesson you could learn, Adam.
Even though you've got John Bailey there, that's got the wildest eyebrows in film history, he's definitely the villain. Even though he's stood there in front of the police with a loaded gun drawn on them, they're just like, no, it can't possibly be this chap. This chap is fine.
Yeah, I love Chief Inspector Grobler's thing of saying, "Put that gun away because I've got a card."
Yes,
that'll do it.
There was respect in those days, though, where your social ranking outdrew a gun.
Oh,
he pulled a gun, I pulled a card.
To be in 1949 again.
Look at this.
No wonder those business card vending machines took off in those days.
It's typical of a villain. He's brought a gun to a card fight.
Oh my word! But this is I love this bit though, because obviously, as you say, it's a very male-dominated room apart from Celia and Aunt Nora. Aunt Nora, by the way, we didn't mention, has turned the tables on Celia. Ooh. She doesn't believe her.
Turncoat.
Exactly. She's firmly believed that Lester is her one true love and that he would never do anything to harm her. But obviously, it becomes, and you've got to give Celia a lot of credit for this, it becomes very apparent that Celia was right and that Lester is a complete
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So all the pressure's on Celia because she has to actually point out where everybody's failings are and solve the case and get Larry another job later on. And still managed to get her £50, which she's been promised, and possibly get further recompense from Auntie Nora. But, of course, then we move on to the next scene. I'm not going to say what happens, but we move on to the next scene, where we're back at a hat shop.
Do you know, would anyone like to guess? You may have looked this up. If you looked it up, you're not allowed to play, Smokey. But there's I'm going to do a little game on the end of this, right? So the 50 quid that Celia has been working for. Would anyone like to guess how much that is worth in 2021 money?
Excuse me, why aren't I allowed to play?
No, you can play. It was a joke. It was a callback to the
That's
last
harsh.
episode. It was a callback to the last episode.
Right, Ben, we're going to start this again, my friend.
Oh, God's sake, you started.
Here we go again.
You should have just banned him from playing. I'm sorry.
No, right, no.
Shall we say?
No. I don't want to cause infighting. I'll sit this one out. No.
Thank you. Okay,
right,
great.
It was a joke because you're not sitting this one out. That was the joke.
Well, Ben, it wasn't very funny.
Well, that's what I do, isn't it? Not be very funny.
All right, fine, Cliff Richard.
Kill me.
I'll go again. So, 50 quid in 2021 money. Adam.
I'm going to say that is 200 quid in
Kev.
today's money.
I'll go for about 3,000.
Smokes.
I don't know. 50, say about 400.
You're all so wrong, I can't work out who's won. But I think
It's Alden Pounds.
Because I owe him one, because he did so horribly in the last episode, I'm going to give it to Smokes. I think he's actually the nearest, if I pull a Carol Vorderman. The actual amount that 50 quid is worth in 1949 equates to about £1,800.
So Kev's won.
No, he hasn't.
Oh. No,
I don't want to get into a mathematical debate.
Adam, do not steal my point.
But no, I think
you know what happens when that occurs.
Smokey guessed 400,
Yeah, so
which is 1,400 away,
Yeah.
and Kev guessed 3,000, which is 1,200 away.
I'm
Kev
sorry.
wins. But I'll tell you what we'll do.
No,
because
go back to your calculator.
2,000.
And ask how many 400 is away from... Oh, no, you're right.
Yeah, thank you. So 40, Smokey's 1,400 away and Kev's 1,200 away, which is how maths works, Ben. So basically, Kev wins, but I think we should all agree now to give Smokey a point because he is so terrible at quizzes. Thank you.
Yes.
I don't do well under pressure.
Apparently neither do I.
No. Well, you don't do well under pressure of maths.
No, apparently not.
But there you go. Can we go back to the film we were talking about?
No, let's stay on this point. Let's do this.
I love the power of mathematics.
Don't we all?
The force from above.
Right.
Kev,
right.
Why are you so good at winning?
Adam,
I'm still living in Doncaster.
Yeah, sorry,
God.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Right, all of you behave. I'm reining this in right now. So let's just quickly go around the table and just say, are we happy with this denouement? Are we happy with how the film ends?
Oh.
Okay? Right, I'm going to go in alphabetical order, and then we're also going to take your ratings as well, gentlemen. Okay, how are we doing? Yeah, good. Right, lovely. Adam, denouement and rating. What are you happy?
I love the ending of this film, yeah. I think it's perfect. The baddie gets to sup upon his own...
Juices.
Hang on. His own evil. Anyway. It all comes... It
gets to suck on his own evil.
He gets to suck on his own evil.
Suck
on your
aspirin.
own evil, Darth Vader.
Suck my evil.
Yes. Yeah. Plus,
Suck my evil Darth Vader. Did you just say that?
He gets the... Yeah, I'm just imagining other baddies that would suck on their own evil.
I just want Clarice Starling to say that to Hannibal Lecter.
Exactly. Suck on your own evil, Hannibal, with some fava beans and a nice candy. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's brilliant. The baddie gets a very timely comeuppance, and I would give this film 9 out of 10. Whoa. There is my review. I think it's brilliant. I think it's a great film. I could watch this film all day long. It's a great film. The setup is nothing. The plot contrivances are very short, and then you get this lovely, marvelous. Like 90% of it is just a suspense sequence, and it's very clever. And High Hazel is amazing, and I loved it. And this is the best Hammer film so far.
Wonderful, Ben.
Yeah, concur. This is my favourite Hammer film so far. I honestly think, objectively, it's the best one as well. A little tight thriller, comedy, drama. It's got everything in an hour. I've waxed lyrical about High Hazel, and she's amazing. The end of the film is terrific. It ends on just the right note, and the very, very, very end scene of the film is tremendous. So no, I loved it. I could watch it over and over and over again. And we said this about PC-49, but I would say it in spades about this film. I'm devastated that there weren't more of these. That this could have, and I'm sure it did from what we gather on radio, it ran and ran and ran, but I could have seen 6, 7, 8 of these films, a different contrivance, a different scenario where Celia had to pretend to be someone she wasn't to solve a crime, and the fact that it obviously didn't happen is a bit of a tragedy, but no, great. 9 out of 10 for me as well.
That's awesome. Kevy.
Brilliant.
Yep, I'm with Ben. I would love to have seen Celia finally turn up in a Hunchback of Notre Dame disguise with a crazy moustache, just for her next assignment.
That's what Ben said.
That would have been perfect.
That's exactly what Ben said.
Yeah, but no, honestly, there is so many lovely bits in this, like when she realises that Celia doesn't have a second name, so when she's on the phone to the secretary, she actually calls herself Celia Hazel, and becomes very meta for a very short period of time. But there are so many lovely touches in this film, and it's really worth seeing. It's just so detailed. And like Adam said, the production value is just unbelievable. It looks so much better than what we've been used to so far. I would definitely give this a 9 out of 10.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I'm going to concur with all of you. Yeah, this was just... I felt really kind of sort of patronising when I texted you last during the week and said, oh, it's a cracking little film. It's more than that. It's a wonderful timepiece. It's just a beautiful thing to watch, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. As we kind of mentioned, kind of fell in love with Hi Hazel. She's just delightful. One of my favourite bits of the film, which we didn't really touch on, is the fact that twice it happens, 3 times it happens in the film, is that no one recognises her when she just goes from posh to cockney. And oh, it's you! What are you doing here, Celia? Was that you scrubbing the floor all along? Kind of thing. I love that. It was so utterly charming.
And in my notes, I've got that as she clearly has a voice that blinds.
Well, and do you know what, mate? I can't disagree. And she has a face and a personality that blinds too. This is an absolute corker. I really hope many, many more people see it, along with some of the other ones we've watched, along with Dick Barton Strikes Back and Death in High Heels. And
I would say, of all the films
great.
we've watched so far, this is the one that definitely punches for something higher than it is, and really succeeds, because this has no heritage at all. You know, no one knows about the character of Celia or the radio play or anything, or what happens in the series that it was based upon. And yet, I watched this thing thinking, oh my God, with Ben on this, I wish there were 100 of these films. I would love to hear the radio serial of what happened. Yeah. I don't care. I would love to read the comic books of this. I think she's a bloody brilliant character.
She really is.
This is a film that really punches above its weight. This is an A picture stuffed in a B picture box.
I agree. Yeah, they've gone beyond now, I think. This is the watermark now for going beyond the quota quickies. This was classed as one, but this is so much better than that. And I didn't give my rating, and I've got to give it a 9 as well. I think it's spectacular.
Can I add one last thing as well before we finish this up? It's that we've watched a couple of franchises now. We watched Dick Barton and we watched PC-49. And in both instances, we've seen they've got more than one film, and we've watched it and thought, yes, they've tried this, they've tried that, they've tried the other, and we know a little bit more about where those franchises come from. We know the legacy that they were built on. Here, I don't know the legacy that this film was built on, but they've managed to somehow encapsulate it all into one film, so you can see the franchise never having seen it, because you know exactly what they were trying to achieve in terms of the episodic nature of what must have been, and the fact that we don't ever get to see that beyond this film is a tragedy.
It's a damn shame.
Especially as it's a female and very progressive character, I think.
Yeah.
You could put this adventure in a film from today, and people will go, thank God people are making films like this. And to think that it happened 80 years ago is it's incredible, really. It's a really bloody good film and sorely undersea.
Celia, darling, I think in about another 3 months, I shall have another little job for you. Oh!
So there you are, one of the most unexpected rooms so far in the House of Hammer. Room 9, Celia, the sinister affair of poor Aunt Nora, has become an instant favourite among the entire crew here. We all hold it in the highest regard and thoroughly recommend that you seek it out too. And let's face it, if we can all agree on it being the best Hammer film so far, then it must be something rather special. Before we leave today, it's time to nip on upstairs to our hallway of fame, the creaky passage running along the very house itself, and the place in which we regularly anoint that most hallowed of venerable players, the Hammer Heroes. This time round, it's the turn of Celia's second unit director, Walter Jimmy Harvey. But who is he, and why does he matter? Well, listen on, and you may be surprised at just how much of a hero he really is. Over to our regular hero maker, Kev Moore, to tell you why.
If you have a passing knowledge of Hammer films, or if you've been listening to our previous episodes, you may well recognise the names Will Hammer, James Carreras, Anthony Hines, Terence Fisher, Roy Ward Baker and the like. But what about Walter Jimmy Harvey? No? Well, Harvey's life with Hammer was very fruitful, and it all started here, photographing the second unit for Celia, after which he became the in-house lighting cameraman following the departure of Cedric Williams, who quite rightly was feeling a little burnt out after working on 7 Hammer films between 1949 and 1950. A lighting cameraman is a wonderful old British way of saying cinematographer or director of photography. That, by the way, I hope becomes trendy again, because it's lovely, like a radiogram or a mudlark. Anywho, clearly a man who couldn't make his mind up, he was billed at various times as both Walter and Jimmy Harvey, and sometimes as Walter J. Harvey, Jimmy W. Harvey, James Harvey, and Walter Harvey Pape. Although he was born in Middlesex, he started out as a camera assistant in the mid-1920s in Germany, because let's face it, if you wanted to learn the art of film, there was no better place at that particular time. His apprenticeship was short-lived. He soon became a full-blown cinematographer, and by the end of the 20s, he was back in Britain, and very quickly chalking up quite the CV due to his no-nonsense, fast way of working. The Hammer writer, producer, and director Jimmy Sangster once said of him, "As cameraman, he was the assistant director's delight. He was quick, efficient, and never asked for a retake." Working in the very cramped conditions of the country house at Dial Close on Celia was certainly a trial by fire, but Walter Harvey proved himself invaluable, setting up shots that, while not being as high art as the German productions he began his career with, was certainly a step up from the previous quota quickies Hammer had been producing. And when all the filming moved to the equally cramped Oakley Court, because at the time it was still basically a building site, Walter, or Jimmy, or whatever he wanted to be that day, fit the bill perfectly. Mostly an unsung hero, Walter J. Harvey would go on to be a driving force in Hammer throughout much of the 50s, working on 30 features and shorts. His most notable contributions would be the starkly lit The Quatermass Experiment in 1955 and 1954's Men of Sherwood Forest, Hammer's first colour feature. After so much hard work, he would leave Hammer just as the horror boom was about to break. His talent for high production value at a breakneck pace had certainly got him noticed, and it saw him continue to work for many years on television as part of some of the best ITC productions ever made, as well as continuing his first love of working in film.
Into the hallway of fame goes our latest Hammer hero, Walter Jimmy Harvey, who joins an illustrious gathering of Hammer founders. Who will follow him into the pantheon next? Well, maybe we'll find out in the next room, Room 10. Yes, Room 10, our next stop on the tour through Hammer's complete legacy, belongs to another character who began his life on radio, a doctor of crime no less. In this particular character's case, MD stands for murders and death. GP is garrotting and poaching. And ER will definitely get you kicked out of the supermarket, particularly the fish section. Hear all about it when we return soon with episode 10. Until then, don't forget that you can follow us on Twitter at HouseHammerPod, on Instagram at HouseHammerPod, or you can even email us if you're desperate to at scream@houseofhammerpodcast.com. Well, that's all for this ride out. So from myself, Adam Roach.
From me, Kev.
From me, Smokey.
From me, Ben Tillison.
We look forward to welcoming you again soon to the House of Hammer.